Hey there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. All right. Is this going to be the same playbook, just a different fear when it comes to this new Chikungunya virus coming out of China? Mosquito-borne illness. Look, there are lots of illnesses, viruses that are mosquito-borne. How dangerous is this? What do we need to be concerned about? Here's the thing. Do you remember when COVID happened? COVID happened right after President Trump started pushing hard against China in his first term. Now we see all of these tariffs going hard against China, and then all of a sudden, Chikungunya virus pops up out of nowhere. I am so skeptical about everything these days that I want to ask questions about this stuff because I do see the same sort of fear-mongering coming out. We're going to play you some videos to talk about it. Nobody calls this stuff out like the wellness company. Now, here's the best thing. If this is legit and you got problems, you can protect yourself, right? So the wellness company can supply you with these emergency medical kits. They've got antivirals in here, which can help. Ivermectin in here, which clearly turned out to be like a miracle drug when it comes to COVID and cancer and so many other things, all found in the wellness company kits. TWC.Health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Just to give you a little look in here. These are all made out to me. Doctor will call you, go over everything with you. And now I got this in my house, and I can't tell you how many times I've used it. And I just call up the wellness company and get the prescriptions refilled. So it's always there on hand to have. That should be part of your emergency medical preparedness. TWC.Health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT. And then RFK Jr. revealing his diet. This after he cancels mRNA contracts. That goes into all of this. But canceling being able to use SNAP benefits, food stamps for sugary drinks and junk food. And he revealed his diet. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll play the clip that raised a lot of eyebrows for people out there of RFK Jr. With that, though, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome, everybody. I want to bring in our guest, the CEO of the wellness company, Peter Gillooly, is with us. Peter, it's great to have you on the program.
Happy to be back, Grant.
All right, let me ask you, Peter, what do you make of Chikungunya virus? What's happening, the timing, what you're starting to see out there?
Well, it would have been nice if they chose an easier to pronounce name. But for those of you who don't know about Chikungunya virus, so the virus is a mosquito-borne virus. It's not something that's contagious from person to person. You might, if you live in the United States, be familiar with similar viruses like Eastern encephalitis, equilitis, triple E. It's big in New England for whatever reason. Another mosquito-borne virus that they like to ramp up the scare tactics. This specific virus, though, in China has had an outbreak in southern China. They had a very kind of wet spring, which of course lends itself to large populations of mosquitoes. The virus is quite painful. So it manifests itself in sort of severe arthritis-like symptoms that can last up to 1 to 2 years. So it's certainly not something you want to catch or kind of contract. But to me, the timing just seems kind of odd, Grant. So I don't know if you knew this, but last year, right on schedule, there was a vaccine that was approved for this virus. It has not been rolled out broadly yet. But China has seen this opportunity with the outbreak to reinforce sort of COVID-era mandates. So they've been locking people in their homes, demanding that they quarantine. They've been spraying the streets with insecticide like you would never believe. I mean, looks like a cloudy, foggy day in some of these Chinese cities, which is kind of way over the top. I mean, we all know how to prevent mosquito bites, and fortunately, there are ways to help yourself with contracting a virus like this, which I'm happy to get into.
Well, when you think about this and what's going on with it, I do think I'm with you that there are all kinds of similarities when it comes to the release of it. What is the goal of this? And China right now, they're saying, Peter, is not being open and honest about what the virus is and how prevalent it is. And this is the same thing we saw the last time around with China.
Well, that's certainly true, Grant. And China is never going to be open and forthcoming with the nature of these viruses, just like they're not open and forthcoming with their economic data or anything else that they do over there. They keep it very opaque because they're trying to maintain the facade to the outside world. I get it. So we need to take what they say with a grain of salt. However, we should acknowledge some important kind of facts here, right? Our good friend Bill Gates, who we've talked about many times on the show, he's invested a ton of money in mosquitoes. We've covered the story. He sees them as a potential vector to prevent disease in his eyes. Now, whether or not that's actually true, who knows? But we do know that mosquitoes, because they do drink our blood, are a primary way that viruses can be transmitted from person to person without any physical contact. And Bill Gates has a whole lab in Central America dedicated to mosquito-based virus research. And he's talked about using mosquitoes as both ways to deliver cures, oddly enough, in forms of vaccine, and also a way to crossbreed the mosquitoes to allegedly make them less potent. And we've seen the same things, by the way, with the flies in Mexico. We were talking the other week about the pinworms that were affecting cattle in Mexico, which is a fly-based parasite. They've been trying to genetically engineer flies to breed with these active flies to reduce that pinworm population. Wow. Again, we're back to humans playing God here.
Yeah. I can see, too, this was a video that was, I believe, Yahoo put out on about chikungunya. And, it plays right into the sensationalistic factor. Now, I get that the disease can be painful, just like COVID. The first time around, you didn't want to get it. I mean, it wasn't pleasant. But watch this, and then I'll get your response.
Here are 4 facts about China's chikungunya outbreak. 1. The virus has infected more than 7,000 people in China and is spread by mosquitoes. 2. Chikungunya isn't just in China. Outbreaks regularly pop up in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. 3. Mosquito-transmitted illnesses have been on the rise since 2000. Experts say things like climate change and urban expansion could continue to make it worse in the future. And 4. The CDC has issued several travel advisories related to chikungunya. If you're traveling to any of these countries, you should take extra precautions to avoid mosquito bites.
All right, so if you're a worrywart, you're going to see this and you get nervous about it. But I will say, 7,000 people in China, which has one of the largest populations in the world, is really not that many people when you do it from a percentage perspective. The only question is, I don't know if we believe China. The 7,000 could be 7 million.
Well, I'm not even going to get into the climate change remark, but they did show that graph with the increase of the mosquito-borne viruses. But look, I think we got to put these numbers in context, right? At the same time that we've had an increase in viruses, we've also had a massive increase in testing for these viruses. I don't think the rate today is any higher than the rate it's always been. I just think we do a heck of a lot more testing today for diseases and viruses in hospitals than we've ever done before. And that's only increased year after year, and it's really got to extreme level when COVID broke out and we were on this sort of testing craze with everyone shoving swabs up their nose. Yeah. So I think part of it is, they're trying to find ways to sensationalize this news, and they're pointing to a data point which might be technically accurate, but we have to put that in context of, if we're looking for more cases, we will necessarily find more cases. And I'm sure that there's many more people in China who have been infected.
Well, this was predicted, I think, in 2002, I believe, by a very, very well-schooled outlet that has been predicting a lot of things. You ready for this, Peter?
A mosquito? How'd that get in there? Ow!
Skeeter bites are good luck.
Now, you're sure you haven't been to China?
No, I told you, a mosquito came out of my Laffy meal and bit me.
Here, take a look.
I knew it was serious when he said he didn't want ice cream.
For a week.
Now, that was long before COVID. But The Simpsons even blaming China on all of this, Peter.
Like usual, Simpsons did it, right? They're usually far ahead with this sort of stuff. Look, again, I don't want to sensationalize this, Grant. Is this a problem? Of course. Has it probably always been a problem? Of course. But there's logical things you can do. You point out the medical emergency kit. There is a study going on right now that I was talking with Dr. McCullough on for, guess what, the use of ivermectin for prophylactic therapy if you get bitten and start to feel symptomatic from one of these diseases. Also, if you have gotten chikungunya, Medrol dose pack, another very common medication that we have in our kits, 6-day course can really help with the pain after the acute phase. And I think it's just a no-brainer.
So let me put the address up there. That's TWC.Health/Grant. I know it doesn't look as pretty on our screen as it should, but TWC.Health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Peter, I'm going to tell you something that you guys sent me the parasite cleanse. I got so freaked out about parasites. You had just mentioned it, Mexico, the flies. I just got back from Mexico. Well, about a week ago, I started the parasite cleanse. Now, I don't feel any side effects from it, like no stomach. You take a new medication, something might happen. None of that. But here's what I do feel. I have a newfound energy. I went to my wellness doctor, and he asked me, hey, how are you feeling? I said, quite honestly, doc, the last few days, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. This is honest to God's truth. And I'm trying to think, what have I changed to make me feel this way? And I'm like, the parasite cleanse. Could that be an offset of a parasite cleanse that I'm starting to feel energy like I haven't before? And I mean this as God is my witness. The last 3 days, I have felt better than I have ever felt before.
What you're reporting is not uncommon. And I think it's important to understand parasite cleanses are very frequently used all around the world except the United States. And we all see the gross videos on Instagram or whatever with worms and stuff. In reality, that's really not what parasites look like, right? Parasites are usually microscopic. If you actually can see the parasites in your stool, you have a major problem. But we all probably carry some parasites with us at all times. I mean, I know you have, a dog, Grant. I imagine, sometimes you let that dog lick you. Maybe the dog sleeps on the bed occasionally when it sneaks up there. Common story for many, many Americans, right? Dogs are one of the most common ways that you can get parasites, even if you are, cooking all of your steaks to a very well done condition. So it's very likely that most Americans have parasites. I mean, tests have shown that something like 1 in 5 are showing active signs. But again, I think it's probably in reality much higher because, there are sort of undetectable cases like your own, right, where you didn't feel bad, but there is something in you that's draining you, whether you realize it or not. And we've seen time and time again, many people that do these cleanses 2 or 3 times a year reporting that, wow, I feel so much better. And this is the only rational explanation.
So here's the website, twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. On my landing page there, you will see the parasite cleanse there, and then some links to some of the real important products as well. Peruse that. But I'm telling you, folks, a week into this parasite cleanse, I've got energy, and I don't even know if it was brain fog because I feel like I'm a pretty sharp guy, but something has changed, and I know it, and it's noticeable. And so I really do owe that, I believe, to the parasite cleanse because nothing else has changed. So I urge you, check that out, twc.health/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, Peter, Ron Johnson, I know you're a fan of his, the senator from Wisconsin. He's been instrumental, as has the wellness company and all the doctors that work with you at the wellness company, for blowing the whistle on mRNA vaccine and the dangers surrounding it, COVID, the response from COVID, all of it. Well, he had a hearing recently again, and he was talking about this. I'm going to play the clip and then get your response, because here we are virtually, almost 5 years, I guess 5 years from COVID's initial outbreak. This is Ron Johnson.
While I have you, because again, I was warned early on because I was talking to people highly skeptical of the mRNA. Mm-hmm. One doctor beside himself, understanding what his colleagues were going to do, inject something into the human body that would turn the human cell into a manufacturing site for something that's toxic to his body. It's like, gee, what could go wrong? Yes. Encapsulated in a lipid nanoparticle designed to permeate difficult permeate barriers like the blood-brain, like the placenta. You knew it wasn't. They knew it wouldn't. They knew it didn't stay in the arm, and yet they lied to us.
Oh, they lied to us.
That
was not told at the time.
So again, I would say that a doctor telling Ms. Tommy that a seizure after a vaccination is perfectly normal.
No, it is
That's a lie.
Yes.
I mean, it's a jaw-dropping lie. But talk about the spike protein, because what we're hearing now is what I'm seeing is it's all being blamed on long COVID. The brain fog, it's all about long COVID. Once again, complete state of denial. Well, the nasty part of the coronavirus is the spike protein.
Yes.
That is the antigen that the mRNA injection caused the body to produce.
Yes, it's a biologically
active
molecule.
So maybe it's the vaccine that's causing the brain fog, the neurological injuries, and the death, and the strokes, and the I can't remember what it's called, the lining inside your blood vessels. I mean, that's, I think, your problem, right?
Vasculitis, yes.
Yeah.
Inflammation of vessels.
So talk a little bit about what you found out now that you've done your research in terms of the spike protein. And when you've got, at least in the virus, it hopefully would clear, but with the mRNA, it's not real mRNA, it's modified. It's modified to not be destroyed by the body, to keep circulating. Now we have studies that the mRNA, that modified mRNA, it's circulating in the body for months. We haven't done that in much studies to find out how long, but we're finding it in tumors, we're finding it in other autopsy body parts, that type of thing.
So the fact that mRNA stays in the body forever, you've got a spike protein detox at the Wellness Company, which is great. Everybody speaks very highly of it. But it is this spike protein. Now, Ron Johnson's not a doctor, but you can tell he has interviewed, questioned, researched an awful lot. This guy's got to be an expert just like everybody else is. And again, he points out the spike protein was the worst part of the virus. And what did the mRNA shots produce but the spike protein?
It's kind of incredible, isn't it, Grant, that this is anyone with a brain that actually thinks through this rationally kind of sees this whole sort of folly play out in real time now. I think Ron Johnson brings up some really valid points that we all should be concerned about, though. Something like 80% of Americans took at least one shot. And, good for those other 20%. But look, let's keep in mind, we were tricked, right? People were either tricked by the science and what the people on TV said, or they were mandated to do it, or they lose their job. That's a horrible choice that they needed to make, but many Americans made it for the preservation of their family and are still paying the price. Now, I don't know if there's ever going to be retribution. I mean, people have talked about trials and all this. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I think the big thing that we each need to be paying attention to is how do we manage ourselves now that we're in a post-vaccination world, right? So McCullough, who you've had on the podcast, I don't know how many times now, Texas, he sees patients with severe symptoms of post-vaccine injuries every day. And we still see news headlines every month of famous people that are dying from the vaccine. I saw someone that died of a brain condition, 33 years old. She was a pretty famous actor just last week, right? These things don't happen to young people, Grant, and I think that should give us all serious pause. And look, we don't know when it's going to end, right? We still know it's in the body 4 years later. So is it going to ever stop? I don't know, but we need to figure out a way to manage it.
Yeah, and I guess one of the good things is, honestly, I say not to keep going back to, but I want to keep going back to it because I actually think it is important. It's one of the reasons why I like the Wellness Company and aligning myself with it is this spike detox really seems to work. Dr. McCullough played an integral part in creating it, but this is the whole problem. You got to get that out of your body, and that's what the detox does, correct?
Yeah, so the spike protein, to your point, is the actual molecule that allows the virus to attach to your cells. And the vaccine makers co-opted that molecule to make your body produce spike protein to help it supposedly produce antibodies that can help create immunity. Well, your bodies are creating way too much of this stuff, and it accumulates over time. There's no good way to clear this from your body at the pace that it's creating it after a vaccination. So Dr. McCullough has looked at a ton of different natural compounds to try to solve this problem. He finally settled on proteolytic enzymes, namely nattokinase, as well as others, that actually help break down the spike protein. So an enzyme is a molecule in your body that can be useful to help digest food and other proteins. If you take it out of your stomach, it can circulate in your bloodstream and help clear out this excess spike protein. And that's exactly what he's designed within our Ultimate Spike Detox product, which, by the way, he uses in his clinic on a daily basis to have amazing results with patients who are severely injured by the vaccine.
Well, I found a clip. This goes all the way back to, I think, 2022, and it was about what was in the vaccines, and it was about the data safety sheets. Watch this, Peter, and it's pretty powerful video of what was going on, and nobody was really asking questions except in this committee.
So a few months ago, I looked at the package insert. I pulled it from the box of mRNA product. And, it was sealed just like I'm showing you here. I unsealed the box that the entire thing came in, and then I pulled this out. And this is what it looks like. So I'd like to show this to you. It is, sorry about that. It's blank on both sides. And
there it is.
It says intentionally blank on it.
That's the data that pharmacists and physicians are basing on giving the injections outside of mainstream media recommendations. There it is right there. Here's a good question. Why didn't they just print that on a piece of paper the size of a postage stamp? Why all the theater of folding it up into a great big piece of paper like that? Why?
That's what's passing for informed consent.
Right. So how am I to get informed consent to parents when this is what I have. I have a government that's telling me that I have to stay safe and effective, and if I don't, my license is at threat. How am I to give informed consent to patients? We're seeing an uptick in myocarditis. We're seeing an uptick in adverse reactions.
Now, remember, this was in 2022, so the uptick is not an uptick anymore. This was an explosion of myocarditis and all the other things that we've been talking about. The data sheet was left blank. Peter Gallulli, looking back at this, it's like, how do we even allow this to happen? I mean, you're going to have a drug packet that's going to go to pharmacies everywhere. You're going to have people giving shots to people. And you want to talk about informed consent where you read, hey, here's the side effects. Here's how well it should work versus the side effects. You can make a decision. Is it worth the risk for me? You got a sheet that's blank? I mean, we really blew it on all this.
Well, I guess it depends on what the incentives were, Grant. I'll remind you that the World Economic Forum 2 years ago said at one of their meetings that the COVID-19 pandemic has been the most profitable event so far in mankind. Not the most devastating, not the most critical, most profitable. And I think we've seen that play out in real time. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies, Moderna, Pfizer, they were raking in money hand over fist like never before for these products because, look, they had pure immunity. And they were able to incentivize doctors with bonuses, which is legal for vaccines, to push these onto patients. And it doesn't matter what they put on the sheet, right? They thought, look, we don't have any data, so we're just going to leave it blank and hope nobody bothers to unfold that little map 30 times that was included in the box.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Things are changing. That's the good news, and I think in large part due to the wellness company, your doctors, yourself, Peter, sounding the alarm on all of this stuff. Podcasts like this and so many others that have been sounding the alarm. People have totally waken up. I mean, nobody's taking the vaccine anymore. I think they're waking up to trying to get healthy as well. RFK Jr. has done a good job of that. He's in great shape. I don't know how old. Do you know how old he is?
I think he's around 70.
70-something. I mean, he's in great shape. I hope I'm in that kind of shape when I'm 70 years old. He was asked about his diet. All right, I'm gonna play this for you and then get your response.
A lot of people want to know, what's the Bobby Kennedy diet?
Basically, it's a carnivore diet, so it's mainly meat and then fermented vegetable, anything fermented. So a lot of yogurt, a good yogurt without sugar in it.
Kefir.
And then coleslaw and kimchi and all kinds of fermented vegetables. And it's really, I would say it's dramatically changed my, everything.
Right.
So I've had very good luck with it.
So when I first saw this story, it said carnivore diet and anything fermented. And I'm like, oh, what, wine? So he's drinking meat and wine. Sounds like a great diet to me. So then I go in and look, and it's fermented vegetables. I have no idea what that has to do with anything, but it's interesting. And the coleslaw he talks about, I think he's talking about when you ferment that coleslaw. I've had it before. It's somewhat tasty. It's a little more vinegary than it is, a mayonnaise-based coleslaw. But it's interesting. He said a meat diet, and you guys got Wellness Farms. This goes right in line with what he's pushing.
Yeah. So first of all, fermented vegetables are extremely healthy. I mean, we mostly think of things like dill pickles or fermented onions, but the fermentation process is actually extremely healthy. It boosts the level of probiotics, which really help gut health and digestion. It increases the bioavailability of vitamins and minerals in vegetables. It helps reduce some of the kind of anti-nutritional factors. So I don't blame him one bit for adding that to his diet. I think it's a great way to round it out. Personally, if we look back at human history, we are carnivores primarily. We would be root foragers and carnivores back when we were kind of stalking the plains and the great outdoors. So I think that some people who resort to the vegan diet and claim to be healthier, they're really shortchanging themselves when it comes to their health. You're missing so many critical nutrients and iron and minerals that you're only going to get in meats that you cannot get in enough quantities from plants. Protein, right? And you've seen, I'm sure the videos, Grant, the vegan influencers who, 5 years in, they're all shriveled up. There's nothing left.
Right.
They're not healthy at all.
Well, protein, I believe, is everything. I mean, that's a large part of my diet. Meat is a large part of my diet. But fish, chicken, and red meat, and I eat a lot of red meat. I need to do a better job at vegetables. But he mentioned something else, too. He said I eat a lot of yogurt without the sugar. Sugar is the killer, too. I believe sugar may be one of the worst ingredients that has ever been put on our society. It may taste good. It may be great in a cookie, but it's the worst. And you see kids that get addicted to sugar, and it is bad news from there.
Nothing used to be sweet, Grant. And think about it, right? If you wanted a sweet treat way back a couple hundred years ago, you might be able to find an apple that was slightly less sour than other apples. And that was basically it. Sugar is a recent invention. We have this pure white granulated sugar. It looks so great when you're pouring it into the cake mix, but it's terrible for you glycemically. We need to get back to the basics. I mean, you mentioned meat earlier. Meat is really a core staple of the diet that you want to be having, especially meat that is rich in omega-3s, fatty acids. Now, not all meat is created equal. If you find some of the grain-fed and finished meat, that meat gets incredibly fatty, and that's high in omega-6s and 9s. Those are the less healthy fatty acids. And I think it's hard for people because you immediately assume a high meat diet with something like cardiovascular risk. That's not necessarily the case. That's really only the case when you're using lower quality meats that are not grass-fed, not grass-finished, and are kind of produced in these more industrial processes. If you're using natural cattle that's lean, you're going to be getting great nutrition and pose really little health risks to yourself.
Well, that's where the wellness company comes in, and you have Wellness Farms. This is grass-fed beef, no hormones, no vaccinations, done the old-fashioned way, and the old-fashioned way when it comes to farming turns out to be the best way.
We literally go to the farms ourselves, Grant, and handpick the cattle. We know the farmers personally, and that's important to us. I mean, there is a obscene amount of injections and processing that go into most store-bought meat. I'm talking everything from hormones, antibiotics, excess vaccines, the fact that they're fattening up these cows with things that ordinary cows would never eat, like grains and worse. And that's just leading to a bad product. I mean, you would not put any of this stuff inside of yourself if you actually saw the process that this cattle went through before it came to your door. So that's why we took all the extra steps to do the due diligence to find farmers who are doing raising their cattle the right way, and it leads to a far better product, and the proof is in the taste.
Well, in many respects, the wellness company is helping making farming great again too, and ranching, because these big giant conglomerates are eating up our entire agricultural complex, beef, meat of any kind, and of course produce as well. So keeping the local farmer going is a great thing. That's just an added benefit to Wellness Farms. Peter Gillooly, I always appreciate you coming on the program. I'm really grateful to you and the Wellness Company and all you do to support everything that is freedom-related, from this program, so many others, from the strong voices and the doctors that you have on staff that are really unafraid and unapologetic. So from so many people, a big thank you.
Appreciate it, Grant.
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to tell people how to get to the Wellness Company's website. And I'm telling you, folks, do not underestimate what I told you about this parasite cleanse after 1 week. I don't know where my energy came from. I went to bed last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was working. I do morning drive radio in L.A. Now I'm in Dallas, so I don't have to get up as early. But I was up at 7. I went to bed at 1, and I really was not tired. So that's new for me, and the only thing I can attribute that is to the parasite cleanse. Maybe I had parasites. It's disgusting to even think about that I did. But if 60 million Americans do, there's a good chance you could too. TWC.Health/Grant. Use the promo code Grant. And, of course, a whole slew of the emergency medical kits. Again, you hear me say it all the time, but if you don't have one of these in your home, you are not ready for an emergency. So get one of these. TWC.Health/Grant. Use the promo code Grant. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you tomorrow.